Welcome to turning your floor plan and elevations into a 3D model. I need to start on putting my walls up. Now, this is probably my favorite part of the entire process. It's really fun to watch that third dimension come to life. What we need in advance is to have our plinth or our foundation all set. Now, as you probably already did, you traced your floor plan of your bottom level, and I like to use foam. It gives us that almost 1/4 inch. It's also a really sturdy foundation for your model. So I use this black foam. This is my bottom level. It's going to support my walls. All right. Now I'm going to be using both my floor plan and my elevation to get and to measure all the heights and the lengths of things. So all the work that you did before is going to come in really handy because we're going to turn it into a 3-dimensional object now. Okay, how are we gonna do that? I'm a big fan of using our mat board for walls. I like to use it in long pieces, but this can be kind of tricky. We're going to do a couple of techniques in order to get this. So how did I get this long piece that's exactly the same size as my elevation? Well, dun dun dun. Yes, I traced it. I also measured. The fact that I actually put my dimensions of things helped a lot too, because all I have to do is turn that into 1/4 inch scale and voila. I have the accurate height and length of my walls. Now I like to cut it into long strips and cut a flange. I have a separate video on how to cut a flange if you're super curious, but what that means is my flat piece, I have done an incision, and that has allowed this piece to curve or turn. I get a nice angle on it, but the whole piece is one. I don't have to add glue, and it makes it for a nice clean look. And it also has like more stability because it's all attached, okay? So this piece sits right here. It is from this sort of closet bathroom around my garage, this long wall here, all the way around to my dining room. Now I have kind of broken up my walls into several chunks. Doing that, I think, is a little bit easier than trying to do one big piece. It's also more fun because it's like a puzzle. You can kind of put it together. But I'm noticing in my elevations, and let's take a peek at the entire elevations. Looking at my house, my garage level, it's kind of one floor. And I have these areas on this side, the nice, beautiful facade of the house, including on the rear side. The walls go all the way up both floors. So if I don't want kind of a messy line of the two pieces of mat board kind of being glued on top of each other, but I want one long piece, that is, it's going to be beneficial to have this be one piece. So we're starting to think more about the entire form. Yes, we do things floor by floor when we're doing our floor plan, when we're doing our elevations, but we're starting now to think of the whole piece. Now, I started off with this olive color. Generally, I'm a fan. I'm kind of going for sort of a California style, kind of Japanese inspired design with this flat roof that has a little bit of a lift on it. A lot of nice, clean, minimalist angles, sort of a mid-century style. So I was thinking maybe something different. I changed my mind and I'm going with this cream color for a lot of the house. I am going to add a stone kind of detailing. If there are certain details you want to add in a different color, you can actually make the model of that color. You can piece them together, or you can even lay on top, right? I could build my house with this cream color and then add that area of stone on top. Like, it's your model. Decide what kind of look you want to go for. All right, so how do we actually get this piece, right? How do I get this piece? How do I measure out exactly the length and the height of these walls? Well, exactly as we have been doing, right? This is the piece of the larger side of my house. I have actually used my elevation drawings and trace them to get an accurate representation of how it's going to look. Now, I bet you're noticing this doesn't line up, Ms. Harms. Why not? Well, look at our floor plan. Instead of a flat thing, I have to account for all these little nooks and crannies, all of these turns. So what you're going to do when you're building your walls, I like to go along and measure on my floor plan exactly the lengths of things. So this large piece here, hopefully we can see it. Yeah. This large kind of back facade, this is the rear view. I've got some beautiful big windows going on here with this nice patio that's opening up onto my dining room and in my kitchen. This design is for a chef, so I really wanted him to have that feeling, having that open kitchen. So I have measured the length of this wall because remember my other piece ends here. So I'm starting off on a new piece. I'm going to give that a little mark here and then account for the turn, which is about an inch. I'm going to mark it there. Now notice, let's just pause and notice, I have started on the right side of my board and I'm going along in the direction of left, even though I am working my way from left to right. Why is that? I am looking at the cream side. This is the outer facing. So you might flip it over on the wrong side of your mat board to do your measurements. It's up to you. I probably should have because now I'm making all these pencil marks on my beautiful tan. But just think about where are you starting? That is where you're going to put your edge, okay? I'm starting here, that to here. This is this part here. And then this wall is here. I will measure that, put a mark, this wall here, and then I have to dip in. Now this is a patio area. I'm going to do a wall and a separate piece, I'm thinking, for the second floor. The bottom floor is patio, so I'm not going to have a wall on my first floor, except for this part that dips in. It's gonna start to get a little bit hairy with my second floor. So I have stopped my piece right here. Okay, so I went along and I marked all of those walls. I have the horizontal plane done, hooray. Now I need to figure out the vertical plane. That means the height of my walls. Again, I can use my elevation as a template, but remember it is flat. So any areas that dip in, that are receding into space, I need to account for that. But my elevation tells me the exact height that I'm going to stay at. If I have a wall pushing in this direction, it's going to stay at this height. Okay, it can get a little bit funky. For example, here is this angle. Oops, it's the other side of the house, not the front. And that's a fun thing too. With your elevation, if your house is exactly the same but mirrored on the other side, you can just flip it over and use that as a template. Whoop. Which I did because I have this kind of challenging angle. I spent a lot of brain cells figuring out this angle. I don't want to do it again. I just want to trace it because I want to turn this into a model, darn it. Okay, so this is the rear view of the house. This part is going to actually be curved. This is an inner wall. And notice, this is a short wall because I have to account for this lower area. It's not going to the entire vertical height of the house. So I need to account for that. I did myself a favor and I marked it at 10 feet. Again, I can use my elevation as a template, easy peasy, right? So I've marked it for the length and the height. It's all coming together now. All right. So once you've determined your piece, you can start to cut it out. Cut it out. Now I'm going to use my ruler to get a perfect angle. Once you've determined that all of your lines are correct, do double check your work. We make mistakes in architecture and they're fun, happy little mistakes, but we do want to double check about them, right? You don't want to have to cut it twice. Another thing, you want to make sure, just visually take a little tour of your piece and just make sure you have all the pieces accounted for. I'm going to use my ruler for a straight line. This mat board can be tricky to cut through because it does have several membranes, right? There's a cushy bottom layer and there's also the kind of decorative outer facing paper piece. So it has a foamy layer and then it has this paper on top. Now, the fact that it's double layered means that we can do these flanges without issue. And the flanges are going to be really, really helpful. That's going to give all of my walls dimension and have them fit perfectly onto my piece of foam. So when you are cutting, make sure you do just nice controlled cuts along your line. We want this to look as clean as possible. We don't want to hurt ourselves. We're not in any rush. You are making art, you are making design. So just be very, very careful. And once you have a nice gouge through that top layer, you can push your blade all the way through. Push it nice and hard into the mat. The mat doesn't care, right? That's why it's there. Okay? You will probably go in and refine this. We can even sand it down if it gets ugly, okay? But this is the basic idea of cutting out your walls in long strips. You could cut each individual piece and Lego it together, but it's not going to look as clean as having it be kind of in chunks and strips, all right? So the next video, I'm going to show you how to cut out windows and doors, and we're gonna start putting everything together. Before we glue this vertically, we do need to cut out all of our windows and even add glass if we want. We're gonna do all the work on our vertical plane before we install it upright. Makes sense, huh? All right, so please join me for the next video. We're going to cut out some fenestrations. Bye-bye.